Hello, everyone, and welcome. And today I have a very special guest with me. I've got Moira Bramley. Thanks for being here, Moira.
Thank you, Saul.
And I wanted to have a bit of a conversation with you, Moira, about raising X-Men, because I know you have your son Liam, who is an X-Men, and I'm not sure if is Fraser also X-Men or
I'm
not?
not sure. Fraser is desperately trying to fit into this reality, but has capacities that are, I would say he was an X-Men.
Right. Yeah. Well, so can you kind of maybe, because I know the kind of like awareness of the X-Men tools came a little bit like after you sort of started to discover, especially like your son Liam and the difference that he has. So could you maybe talk a little bit like first about what it was like before you had the
I didn't okay, so first of all, I didn't know he was an X-Men. I didn't know I was an X-Men. And I was desperately trying to give him what I didn't have. So I sent him to the most expensive academic high performance schools. And at 7 years old, they called me in and they said, "Why do you have your child at this school?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And of course I knew. They said, he's in the wrong place. We can't get him to pick up a pencil. And he wouldn't do homework. He wouldn't write. And when I got home that night, it was the one and only time, and I regret it, the one and only time that I ever spanked him. I put him over my lap because he wouldn't do the homework. And I said, "We're going to have to take you out of that school." And he's like, "Yeah." And he just kept saying, "Yeah, yeah." So he wouldn't write because X-Men function from extrapolation. And to him, and it was the same as me, as I was and still am, I'm working to develop writing skills, and I find it incredibly difficult to take all of this information and bring it down to a little bit that's important, because to us it's all important, because we perceive all the quantum entanglements and how everything is connected. And if you miss a little bit, I mean, we're all incredibly different, as you know, Sule. We trying to define X-Men is like trying to define, fungi. There's millions of different types of fungi. This X-Men are the same. So he couldn't see the point in writing a little bit of insignificance and to make it that contracted. And he literally couldn't see the point. And he also had dyspraxia, which is very common in a lot of X-Men, where they find it incredibly difficult to create form with a pencil. So he just refused. And we changed schools. We took him out of that school and found another school for him. But he was the teacher said, "I don't know what to do with him. When I tell him off, he just goes glazed eyes. He glazes over and just withdraws." Yeah. She said, "I don't know what to do with him." And he was traumatized because he was, they were on him and on him and on him all the time. Now, the other one, incredibly different. He, at 12 years old, finished all his leaving cert, was invited to Mensa, has an IQ then at 12 years old, which was the highest in the school ever, which was 179. And I watched his capacities and he denied them and denied them and denied them. So yeah, I would say definitely he's an X-Men, but he is desperately trying to fit into his father's reality and be normal. Even 2 days ago, he called me and asked for some help with pain that his girlfriend, who he's living with, was having in her tummy. And I said, "I haven't met her yet." I said, "Well, it'd be best if you put her on the phone." And he kind of panicked and he went, No, it's okay. She won't get it, Mum, she won't. So he's trying so hard. And that's what a lot of X-Men do, is try hard to be normal, and they can't be.
and you know, when you were talking about, you know, the teacher trying to get, you know, Liam to see, you know, from, I guess, her point of view, what he was doing wrong, it's like, that's, I think, what so many X-Men also have, is this experience of like never actually really being acknowledged for what they're aware of and being told that they're wrong for not fitting in, and then they start to cut off all of those parts and pieces of them that are actually different. And
so he thought his capacities were normal, and I was desperately trying to get him to be normal. And the school suggested I take him to an educational psychologist. I did, in Edinburgh, in the local, the next city to us, and they diagnosed him with dysgraphia, dyspraxia, dys this, dys that, and he had all of these dyses. And he got worse. He actually got depressed, and at 15, he was put into, 14, he was put into special ed. And he was just depressed. He was like, well, if this is what I am, I don't want to be here. So a lot of people who are definitely different, they only can see what they're told is wrong with them.
Yeah.
Where they're not good enough.
Yeah. And so, you know, like, fast forward to today, and it's like you have, you know, a young man who, you know, knows who he is intelligent, looks you in the eye, he's, you know, very happy. And it's like, so could you talk about what changed? So you've gone from, you know, this 14-year-old in a special ed class to, you know, the man he is today.
The thing is, thank you, Sul. The thing is, I admire him immensely because he never gave it up. I mean, what he used to be at school was he would be. He would just be. Now, most people don't know what that is. He didn't think, he didn't compute, he just beed. Even now, I just spent 3 weeks with him, stuck in his house. And I'm saying that because literally, you know, with the COVID, I was supposed to be there for a week. And I ended up being there for 3 weeks. And boy, was I grateful for it afterwards. Because I learned a lot about him. So he did a lot of it was me, actually. I'll change that. I did a lot of separation from him because I couldn't get him to connect in the way that I was taught connection. Now that's an X-Men for you. So can hear a sound and it's distracting him. Is that why you're muting? That's
I've got to get some earphones apparently. So you keep talking. I think you're good, but I've got to get some. So I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay. So he, where was I? Wow. Another thing about X-Men, they're incredibly distracted by energies around about them. So I'm perceiving what's going on in Australia. There are schools right now, and I've lost the thread of where I was at. What was I talking about? Liam being, oh yes, he just beat. So when I was at his house and was still looking for that connection, which I've done forever, and I've never gotten who he truly beed. And he explained it to me when I got upset. I said, Liam, do I separate from you? And he said, no, but you keep trying to connect. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you keep trying to connect with me directly. He said, perceive the chair right now. Perceive the table right now. It's just there. You don't have to look at it to engage with it. You just are engaged with it. And I was like, oh, okay. And the other thing I did was I interfered with his reality quite a lot. I would see him, you know, sat reading a book and he would have bare feet and his feet would be cold. And I would go hand him a pair of slippers and he would get annoyed. Still mothering him. Leave your feet are cold, here's slippers. Until I did it like half a dozen times and then he just blew up and like, can you stop, you know? So Yeah, we're talking about being. So he just, go on.
Can I just mention something? Because I went for a run earlier today and I was listening to a Choice of Possibilities class that Brendan did, and he was talking about something very similar, and he was saying, like, you know, if you were to look at, you know, you as part of oneness, you are connected to everything, but it's not what, like, this reality sees connection as. And so it's like every time we're trying to connect with something or someone, we're actually trying to find like a reference point from which to connect with them, rather than acknowledging the connection that we have to something that is so much bigger.
Yeah. And that's something that I've for years tried to fit into is, and you know, doing the seminars, I would always, it would be brought to my awareness that I would be aloof and not really engage with people, because I was trying to do it in a way that didn't work for me. I was trying to do it the way that this reality does it, which is, you know, focus in and relate to people. So I just was like, backed off and was like, that I can't do that. I'm really crap at it. I can't do it. So I stopped. I just became very much on my own. Can't do it. So the 3 weeks over Christmas and New Year was such a gift, because I was like, there's my reality. So even up until literally a few months ago, I was still trying to fit in and relate to people the way that you're supposed to in this reality in order to connect.
Well, and you know, if you're an X-Men and you're listening to this, and you know, I'm sure parts of this conversation are probably resonating with you in some way, but I mean, that might also be one very sort of obvious way of identifying if you're a little bit different, is if you go to connect with people and it doesn't really feel like your reality. It's like there might be a different reality that's actually available to you with, you know, communication and like connection. And we've got lots of people that are saying hi and thank you for this conversation. They're super grateful. So hi everyone. So then the introduction, kind of like with the access tools, with, you know, you and you know, also acknowledging your capacities, like as well as your son's. You want to maybe say a little bit more about that and what?
Yeah, I mean, when the thing that I've stuck myself with for years, and I'm still working with it right now, is that I'm not very intelligent. I'm still literally, if there's something I can't do or I find difficult, I can still go into a bit of a panic. Oh, I'm not very bright. I can't do this. So it's all the orders that we're being taught at school, and in society and in our families. They're arbitrary. They've just been made up. This is how we should be, and this is how we should do it. So I'm literally still dealing with a lot of PTSD that has come about of, you know, me going through the education system and being wrong. So I'd just love to say, anybody that is, actually, I'd just like to do this clear, if that's okay. So
yeah,
everywhere that you've been willingly contributing to the mass delusion of the rightness of form, structure, and significance, and destroy and uncreate everything that is right, wrong, good, bad, all nine,
all nine
thank
shorts,
you.
boys and beyonds.
And all the PTSD that you got from school, destroy and uncreate it.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
And all the PTSD that you got from your parents, destroy and uncreate everything that is.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
And yeah, so coming to Access, the first class that I did that wasn't an X-Men class, but it got me to see just how different I was Gary did a class in Brisbane, actually, on you wouldn't teach a fish to climb a tree. It was the first class that he did on being that different.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I just want to pop in and say it's a book, and you can find it in the Access shop. It's, you know, co-created by Gary Douglas Steinhe and Maxwell. And actually, the first time I read that book, I was like I'd pulled over my car and I was in the forest and I was reading it, and I just like something broke in me that day, and I just started like crying basically. But it was like this acknowledgement of like someone actually gets me, and
Making me
someone
cry
is
now.
hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I cried the whole of that class when Gary showed me energetically who I was and how I functioned and how fucking amazing it was and what I could be and do in the world. And I'll never forget the time in a class, actually. So we were at a 7-day seminar, and I was running your bars, and you asked Gary a question, and then Gary talked about the earth because he knew you had capacity with the planet. And you started to try and speak about the change that could have come about when a storm had occurred. And you were like, it was right there. We could have changed so much with that storm occurring. And you couldn't speak, you couldn't get the words out. And you got a bit tearful, and I cried too. And that was when you first realised you thought you had a problem because you couldn't speak. Oftentimes words would get stuck in your throat. And Gary got you to see for the first time you can't speak when people can't hear it. So there's so much that X-Men be and know that they can't share with other people because they can't perceive it and they can't hear it. Yeah. So I remember that change in your life. Amazing awareness.
And it's like just for everyone else that's listening as well, because it's like when you have a different awareness and it's not, you're not able to give it to people in words, you can often, like, again, that's the place that a lot of people make themselves wrong for not being able to like deliver it in a way that people can hear it. But it's like, please, whatever it is, like, don't give up on what you know, because you all know something, like all of you guys know something, and it's like keep going, because it does get easier. And believe it or not, people do start to hear pieces, different parts and pieces, like I know a lot of you are getting a lot from this conversation, so don't give up.
Yeah. So Liam now is working on a couple of businesses, and he's just he bees. It's just to be in his presence. Each time I spend time with him just outside London, he's like, he's become the parent. I ask him questions. Hey, how is this? How do you do that? How do you be with this? And he facilitates me now, So I'm just in awe of how he hasn't given up who he bees. And
well, I'd like to acknowledge you as well, Moira, because it's like, not everyone would be like this with something, that has occurred in their life like this, and being a parent. And it's like, I know it's not easy, and there's a lot of projections and expectations from other people, and it's like you also have this amazing tenacity of like doing whatever you can to create something greater. And it really shows, like, in your life and in his life and in the world, really, with lots of people that know you. So yeah,
making me cry. But the thing that I would like for people, if any of you guys listen to this, know people who are struggling with their kids not fitting in at school and not being able to do what they're asked to do at school, and for parents who are desperately trying to get their kids to be what they want them to be, it's never going to work. And if you look at Access Consciousness X-Men and look at Access Consciousness, you wouldn't teach a fish to climb a tree. And just speak to some people like So and myself, and there are many other people, Diva Diaz, Jenny, wow, names are... Yeah, so there are many people that have capacities and don't fit in here. And it's so contracted and small for people who are more aware. We don't function just from the five senses. We have awarenesses of what's going on towns away. You know, what's going on with people in another country. We can perceive it. So if you have any of these capacities and you're making yourself wrong, or you think you're fucked up, do a bit more research.
Yes, and you know, I love it because it's like, you know, if you look at, you know, trying to control your kids to be what you want them to be, it's like if you look at you and your life, was that ever gonna happen with you and your parents? So, you know, it's pretty much the same with your kids. You know, it's like,
Maybe you could say a little bit about your parenting with Silas and what's different and what has been successful for you and what hasn't worked.
yeah, I mean, well, like you were just talking about, I mean, what doesn't work is definitely me trying to impose my point of view on him, because he just fights me and resists it. So, you know, I'm a slow learner in that respect. But, you know, what I think what does work is like acknowledging the awareness that he has, like asking him, you know, questions a lot to get him to look at, you know, what he's aware of and what he knows. And, you know, I think like you were saying, you know, with Liam is, you know, there's an energy that he bees that is for an X-Men like the most tangible thing that is actually available. And so you being what you are and the way that you function actually allows them to have also those possibilities like available to them. And so sometimes it's not about anything that you do, but it's just literally you being you, and they pick it up and they get it. And, you know, because it's energetic, and energy is the loudest language for X-Men.
Yeah.
So we've already been on for 20 minutes, and it's been an amazing conversation. And I mean, you know, I would love to have more of these with you, Moira. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for coming on, and thanks everyone for watching. There's lots of gratitude, and yeah. So thanks so much, guys, and we will talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.